Hey there, Stampers. This is Sherry Roth with Stamped Treasures. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and I am excited to be here to share my alternate project with you using the July 2025 Sweeter With You Paper Pumpkin Kit. If you are not familiar with Paper Pumpkin, it is Stampin' Up's monthly paper crafting kit, and every month you get the supplies delivered right to your mailbox or right to your door. That includes all of the supplies to create whatever that month's projects are. For the most part, they are cards, but on occasion, it's something else. So this month, we got the supplies to create 2 each of these 4 cards. And so you can see that it's kind of like a strawberry theme. So everything, including the adhesive, is included. I have added some of these yellow gems in there just to step it up just a little bit. But it's meant to be quick and easy crafting, where you don't need a ton of supplies. And then of course there's coordinating envelopes. Also in your kit, you will get an exclusive stamp set every month. You'll get whatever adhesive you need, and you get a Stampin' Spot. This month was Garden Green. So when my kit comes in, the first thing I do is I create one of each of the projects, and then I normally create a scrapbooking layout with you. However, this month I'm going to do something different and create a mini album, and it turned out super cute. So let me pull out the supplies now. I don't have a ton left because I've already created one of the little albums, and I think I've got enough to create one more for you. So you do get instructions. They are just photo instructions, but the projects are meant to be really quick and easy to put together, so it doesn't take long. You don't need anything else other than the photos to put things together. So I've got the leftover pieces from the kit, the pieces that I have left. You can see I've got some die cut strawberries. I've got some flowers. I've got a couple of the envelopes. Here's another die cut piece. And then I've gone ahead and I've taken the card fronts, or the card base, sorry. So like this, and I've cut it in half so that I can use all of the card fronts. So it's like having a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock in all of these patterns. Okay, so we've got the strawberry, we've got the garden green, we've got this pink polka dot, and then we've got this plaid pattern one. Okay, so I've done that, and I've separated them, and then I went ahead and I cut out some banners. So I've got banners cut from each one of those pieces, and I am using the party banner dies. So these are from Stampin' Up! As well, and I have used the 6th largest. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 6th largest party banner die to die cut from that card front. And I lined it up so that it was as far down as I could put it. And I did not throw away these negative pieces because I'm going to use some of these strips. So if you are making this mini album, make sure that you save everything. I always say, don't throw anything away until you're completely done with a kit. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've done that. Let me slide these pieces aside and share what else I've got for you. Okay, I've also got this fabulous strawberry patterned paper. Now this is a pattern piece. This measures 4 1/2 by 12 inches. And this is just a single-sided piece. This was in one of our scrapbooking workshop kits. It was an exclusive paper in the Storybook Life workshop kit. And I had a piece and a bit left over from when I worked with that kit, and I had just set it aside because I do love the paper, but I didn't have a need for it at that point. And I'm so glad that I set it aside because it's going to be perfect for this album. So if you don't have this particular paper, this Storybook Life workshop kit, when I filmed this video, it was still available, and it's on sale here in Canada for just $24. It's half price. So it was regular $48. You can pick it up for $24, and you get 2 sheets of this pattern paper. But maybe you've got something else that kind of is strawberry themed, or even just kind of coordinates with these colors. You can even just use cardstock as well. Okay. All right. So I'm going to use that piece of paper. I've got a piece of white. This measures 3 by 12 inches, so we're going to use that. I've also got a piece of Pool Party 2-tone cardstock, which we're going to use. This is just a piece that's left over. This happens to measure 8 by 12. We're not going to use the whole thing. We're only going to be using about a 4 1/4 by 12 inch piece. And then these pieces, so this is a little bit of a thicker piece of cardboard. It comes in, it's white. You can see that it's got printing on the back. We are going to use this for our album cover, front, back, and spine. It is the white paper backing that comes in our pattern paper packages. So not our specialty packages. It's not like a chipboard. It's just a heavier cardstock or heavier cardboard almost, or maybe a lightweight cardboard, I would probably say. All right, so you just want something a little bit heavier. So this measures 4 1/2 by 12, and I went ahead and I cut the 5th largest banner die from this piece like this. And you don't want to throw away this piece because we are also going to use this middle piece. Okay, so I've got that. And then I've got a whole bunch of other pieces that I've pre-cut. So I've got some more pages that I cut using that 6th largest banner die. I've got a window sheet that I cut from that. I've got a 3 by 3 flip flap, and I've got several other pieces. I'll kind of walk you through them as I assemble the album. But now before we get started, let me share a little peek at the album. Look how cute this is. So cute. So this is what we're going to make today. So here's the flip flap. So I'll just do a quick little flip through. Now this is going to vary slightly because I'm going to try to use the pieces in here. I knew that this was going to be my sample, so I just wanted to do a prototype. I did a lot of stamping on this one and some die cut. Well, not a lot of, I did some stamping and some extra die cutting using the coordinating die. This is a little pocket. This one has a little tag. And this is another little pocket here. And then it just closes up. All right, so I used, let me just close this up here. Okay, so I used this coordinating paper pumpkin die or add-on die. So every 3 months, Stampin' Up! Releases a die set that coordinates with 3 months worth of paper pumpkin kits. And this one, Circle of the Season dies, this coordinates with this month's paper pumpkin kit. So I used this strawberry die and the top. I used the circle, I used the hello. So I used those on this album, and I will use the hello, I will use the circle, but I don't think I'm going to need to use the strawberries because I saved the die cut strawberries from the kit to use for this particular project. Okay, and then there's a few other things that I'm going to throw in, but I'll share what I'm using as I go along. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our cover. So I'm going to set those pieces aside. We're going to bring these 2 pieces in. We can set this aside. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. And if your paper is directional, make sure it's going the right way. So I've got my strawberries going the right way. If you're using double-sided pattern paper, then just make sure that whatever side you want to be your cover is face down. Okay, and we're going to take our banner pieces, and if you don't have these dies, you can just cut a banner. So if you cut a banner that is about, this measures just over 4 inches, about 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So if you did 4 by 5 1/4, that would be fine. I'm using multi-purpose glue to adhere this. I love these banners because it is a little bit of a decorative bottom. So I want to be pretty generous, but I don't want to put a thick layer on. I don't want my cardstock to bubble or get wrinkles in it. And what I'm doing is I'm positioning this down on here and I'm lining it up with the left-hand side. You can line it up with the right as well. It doesn't matter which way you do it. Just line it up with one of the sides. Okay, so I've got that on there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this. Flip it over, and now I'm going to line it up again with that same left-hand side, but I'm going to line it up with the top of my 12-inch length. Okay, make sure that that's got nice It's nicely adhered there. Okay, now this piece that is left, this should work perfectly right in here because we started with a 12-inch length, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in my paper trimmer, and actually, you know what? I think it'd probably be easier if I just use scissors for this. I'm just going to cut this straight across here like this. Like this. We are going to trim this because it's a little bit wider. We want it to be the same width. So these two pieces, we are now done with these. So those can go in the garbage. We won't need those. I am going to need this. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a pencil. I'm going to line this up, and I'm just going to make a mark where the edge of this piece of cardboard ends, and I'm going to snip that. You want it exactly the same width. Okay, so now that should be the same width. You will have a little bit of a gap in between, and that's completely fine. That will make it easy for the album to bend. So now we'll just put that on here. Center it between there, between those two pieces, so that we've got an even gap lined up with the left. And then we're going to bring in some scissors and we're going to snip. So now we've got our album base. So what we can do is I like to take a bone folder and a ruler and just score. Just grab my ruler here and just score in here just so that it folds nicely. Okay, then we'll fold it along here and along here. So, and where our strawberries are going the right direction, that is going to be the front of our album. So, and it's just going to open like this. So now we need to pretty the inside. We don't want to be able to see this on the inside. So that is where this pool party piece of cardstock is going to come into play. So this is two-tone. So you want to decide if you want your light or your dark showing. And I want to have my light showing on the inside. So I'm going to flip it over so that the light is face down. And then I'm just going to add my adhesive. So I'm lining this right up with the left-hand side here. Okay, so now I'm going to use my ruler again and just score this. You saw that I just kind of bent that just a little bit, so I know where to do my score lines. And then I'll just fold that like that. And there is our album base. All right. So now we are going to go ahead and start assembling it. Now I'm going to speed this video up and I'll kind of talk you through the process as I go. Okay, so we are going to start with the cover. I've got a piece of Garden Green cardstock. I think it's about 1.5 inches by 4 1/4. And I cut a strip of that polka dot leftover piece from the banner. That's going to go down first, then the Garden Green on top. So So I'm just using multi-purpose glue. I use multi-purpose glue for almost the whole thing here. And then I went ahead and I die cut the word hello. What I did was I used some black cardstock. I adhered it to some foam adhesive sheets, and then I die cut the word hello. And I'm just using a black Stampin' Blend, and I went around the edges so that you couldn't see as much white from the white foam adhesive. And I stuck that on. Then I grabbed a large and a small strawberry. The large one went on flat, the small one went on popped up. Then I'll add a baker's twine bow and one of the little white flowers from the Sweeter Than You kit. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Sweeter With You kit. And then I'm going to stamp the rest of my title. And the rest of the title actually came from a stamp set that is part of the virtual album retreat class that Stampin' Up! Did. It's called Month by Month. And I used the word summer, that is from there. There's a stamp that says Life is Sweet, and I just used the word sweet. And in the kit, there is a longer pink strip. You can see that right under my ink pad there. That smaller strip that I'm stamping on is just the leftover piece from my sample album. And then I also used the word days. So my title, it reads Hello Sweet Summer Days. I thought it would be perfect for recapping kind of your favorite summer memories. All right, and then I've got a piece, that same 6th largest banner. I cut about a 2.5 inch piece of that banner from some Granny Apple Green cardstock. And I used some of the negative space from the Garden Green banner that I cut. That's just going to go across the top, and we're going to create a pocket. This is going to be on the inside back cover. So I just put that across the top, and then I'm going to put adhesive down the 2 sides and the bottom, so the flagged portion. That's going to go on there. Just kind of put it so that it's a relatively even border all the way around. And that is the cover. So we'll set that aside. We'll come back to that in a bit. Now I've got 2 envelopes, and the envelope flaps on these are decorated in this fun little plaid pattern. So I cut those off. They've got this fun scalloped edge. So I'm going to adhere those 2 together, kind of lining up the scalloped edge so that the pattern is both on the front and the back. And it's going to kind of create like almost like the look of an awning. So I'm bringing in my Granny Apple Green banner and my window sheet banner, and I'm just going to use those as a guide to mark this so that I can trim this off. I was going to use scissors, and then I decided to use a pencil and just mark it and use my paper trimmer to trim it off. When you trim off those 2 sides, keep those. We are going to come back and we'll use one of them a little bit later on. Remember, you don't want to throw anything away until we're finished. All right, so that's going to sit over top here like that. And the rest of the envelopes, what I did, I didn't want those to go to waste, so I opened them up and I used them. I cut them all down to as many 2x3 mats that I could get out of both of those envelopes. And those are going to be my photo mats throughout. So I didn't want those envelopes to go to waste. So here is one of them there. That's just going to get adhered to the Granny Apple Green. And then we're going to add some dimensionals to this lighter strawberry. And that is going to get adhered to the window sheet. And then we're going to use a smaller red strawberry and a flower and one of the yellow low profile sparkle dots. And in the video, I show that the actual awning part is on top of the window sheet, but in my actual album, I actually have the window sheet first, and then the awning is just loose, and then the Granny Apple Green piece. So here I've got the awning and the window sheet flipped up. Okay, and then I am working in order. So then you want to flip your piece, your Granny Apple Green piece upside, like flip it up as if you were turning the page, because remember it's going to be bound at the top. And I'm using the small flower from the stamp set, just stamping tone on tone. So Granny Apple Green on Granny Apple Green. Here I'm bringing in this strawberry negative piece, and I'm just using the top, and as well as a little bit of the Granny Apple Green piece, and those are just going to go across like that. I'll trim off the excess. And then I'll grab another one of those photo mats, add some adhesive and adhere that. I do go back and add a little flour off camera because I wanted to be careful how much I used. I wanted to make sure I had enough. And I did have some of those little white flowers, so I did add those there. All right, so now I've grabbed the strawberry banner, my window sheet, or not my window, my flip flap, and the garden green piece that measures 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And I'm adhering the flip flap to the back of the garden green piece, and then that piece is going to get added to the strawberry banner. And you do want to make sure you're leaving at least 1/2 inch at the top of each of these because we need to punch holes and we don't want to punch through too many of our layers. Then I've got some white 3 by 3 here just to add in to indicate that that's where photos are going to go. Or you can add journaling in there as well. So there's the flip flap. And then we're going to flip it over, and on the back, we're going to add the plaid banner. So I'm just using multi-purpose glue to kind of adhere that, make sure it's lined up nicely. And when you use a die like that, it lines up perfectly. There is a scallop circle in the kit that I pulled out. I added a little bit of adhesive, and we're going to use some strawberry slush ribbon to kind of have a little flag out there. You can do a little bit of journaling on that or add a photo. And then I've got the vellum scallop rectangle, a couple strawberries, and the berry basket. The strawberries are just being adhered to the back of the berry basket. Add some dimensionals. That's going to get adhered to the scallop vellum piece. And then I'll add another smaller strawberry and a flower, and of course a yellow dot. And then that white piece that is sitting there, that is going to get centered behind it so that it cleans it up. And you can add a photo to that or do some journaling to that. So that's going to cover up so that you can't see the dimensionals. All right, and then we'll flip that up. And then the next piece that we're going to pull in our strawberry slush banner, our 3 by 12 inch piece of white. And that white piece, we're going to put the long edge at the top, and we're going to score it at 3, 6, and 9 so that we can fold it and get 3 or 4 even panels that measure 3 by 3. We'll just use a bone folder, make it nice and crisp, and we're going to create a little booklet. So then I'm going to grab a little strawberry pattern piece. It's going to get adhered to a piece of garden green. I'm just going to adhere that down so that it opens like a book. I've got some narrow daffodil ribbon, and that is going to get wrapped around. I'll tie a bow, add some tear and tape to the back, and then that's going to get added to the center of that strawberry slush piece, banner piece. So I'll add some tear and tape to the back of that, peel that off, and there we go. And then I've die cut a circle from some garden green cardstock. That's from the coordinating dies. That's going to get adhered over top. And then I'll add a large strawberry, small strawberry, and a flower, and a yellow dot. I just love this kit so much. It was such a fun kit to play with. All right, so that's another one done. So I will flip that over. And this time we're going to add, we're going to cut up some of that plaid leftover banner piece. So I'm using the wide strip across the top and then the 2 down the side. And we're just going to put these diagonally on here and then put a photo mat on there. So I'm doing a narrow one, which is one of the sides, the wider one, which is at the top, and then another narrower one just below. And the patterns don't match up, but we're not really looking for perfection. We're looking just to have a little bit of pattern in behind our photo mat. And then that's going to go on there, and then I'll trim the ends that are hanging off. And I'll flip it over, and our next one is going to be the strawberry slush polka dot one. We'll grab a photo mat. I've got a strawberry slush circle, and I've got some Timid Tiger ribbon that has some white twine wrapped around it. That's going to get added behind the photo mat. and then the circle will get added on, and then that whole thing will get added to that banner piece. It's just nice to bring in a little bit of that orange, just because we've got some orange in the plaid pattern in the page that's going to be just above it, or just prior to it. Okay, and then we'll flip that over. And so just remember, when you're flipping it over, you can see that I flip it over so that the banner bit's at the top, so that our pages are going the right direction. So this one has the garden green cardstock piece. And this is a piece of DSP from the Storybook Life DSP pack. So it also has some strawberries on it. So I had a scrap of that I added to it. It's about a 2¼ inch piece, and then a white photo mat on top of that. And then we're going to bring in a pool party piece. And here is where we're going to just kind of straighten up that green plaid piece that was left over from our envelope flaps. And this scallop piece from the kit, we're going to cut that in half. And we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of that piece. The plaid piece will get added just using multi-purpose glue, so it's going to go on flat. And again, this piece, you could add a photo or some journaling or stamp a sentiment on there. So that's going to get lined up with the right-hand side. And then I'll add a strawberry. And I'm going to use my black Stampin' Write marker to add little trios of dots just in 3 spots. Okay, and then on this page, you're going to learn from my mistakes on this page. So I'm using the green card base banner that was cut. And we're going to create another pocket. So there is this pool party strip piece. We're going to add adhesive down the 2 sides and the bottom. And that's going to go on here. Then we're going to use a bit of that, or we're going to tuck in 2 photo mats in there. We're not adhering them. We're just tucking them into the pocket. So that leftover scallop bit, we're going to use the stamp that says "Life is Sweeter with You," but we'll only want it to say "Life is Sweet." So I grabbed a Post-it note, covered up with "You," and then I inked it up trying to get just the SWEET, the "Life is Sweet," and not the ER. And I had the Post-it note covering "with you." I forgot to remove the Post-it note. So don't forget to remove the Post-it note when you go to do this. Thankfully, there wasn't a lot of ink on there, so it's not noticeable. It could have made just a big mess, but it didn't. It all worked out. So I did leave a little bit more at the top so that I could take some Flirty Flamingo twine and wrap it around and tie a bow. And it doesn't have to be Flirty Flamingo. If you've got another color, if you've got Poppy Parade in white, that would look really good as well. I just happen to have Flirty Flamingo, so I'm using that. That's going to get added with dimensionals. And then I had a piece of this larger floral or larger strawberry vine that's in the kit. I've been cutting it apart. So this is what I had left. So I just added a little bit of adhesive and trimmed off the rest. And then our next tag is going to be the Poppy Parade tag. We're going to cut the sides off the negative strawberry patterned piece and some of the green. And we're going to create 3 little strips going down the left-hand side. So the 2 strawberries and then the green with a little bit of space in between. We'll trim off the ends. And then we're going to bring in a garden green and vellum piece, and we're going to create a tag. So I trimmed off the one side. I'm flipping over that little piece, and I'm using that as a guide to trim off the other side. And then that tag, I'll line it up with my vellum and just line it up to trim. Then I'm going to grab some of that strawberry slush polka dot. I'm going to trim off that. That's going to go on the bottom of the tag. And then the inside piece of the banner, you'll see I'll pull it out. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch circle punch to punch out a circle for them from the top of my tag. So see how you don't want to throw anything away? We use so many bits and pieces on this. So that's going to go at the top of that tag. Then I'll line up the 2 tags together. I'm going to use a 1/8 inch circle punch and punch a hole. I'll just mark it so that I can get it in the center. And then I'll feed a piece of twine through. And then I believe I add the lighter strawberry to this one using dimensionals. And so the green tag, it's kind of adhered at an angle. The vellum tag is kind of loose, so it will slide to the side. Oh, and I forgot, but in my sample, I did put a 2x2 piece of white on the vellum tag to add a photo. I didn't do this on this one. Okay, so we'll flip that up, and then our last pocket, I have used the Meant to Be dies, which are dies that are on the last chance list right now. I used some strawberry slush cardstock and cut out the smallest hexagon, and it cuts out the solid piece and then also the frame. So the frame I put on flat, the solid piece I'm going to pop up using dimensionals. Then I'll grab another one of my white photo mats, just put dimensionals on the two sides, like on the four corners, and that's going to sit over top. And then I also die cut some of the flowers from the coordinating dies, and I'll just use some multi-purpose glue. I did 3 of those cut from some Poppy Parade, so they blend really nicely with the Poppy Parade background, but then I added some of those yellow low profile sparkle dots, and it really makes those flowers pop off there. I love the bright yellow on the red. Looks so good. All right, and that is it. Now it's time to start assembling. So what I did was I took my ruler and I measured 1 inch in from both sides and about 1/2 an inch down from each of the score lines. So, and I'm just making a mark. And so that was the front. Now we'll do the back, 1 inch in on both sides and about 1/2 an inch down. And then I'm going to use the larger hole on my Crop-A-Dile to punch holes. So I'll just punch out all 4 of those. And you do have to use relatively large rings in order for it to fit through this type of cover. I did try a smaller ring and it doesn't fit. Okay, so now I've lined up the last page so that I have a nice even border, and then flipped it over and marked that page with a pencil. And then I just grabbed another one because the Crop-A-Dile will punch through multiple layers, and I'm just going to punch these. And I started from the back and worked my way forward. But what I'm going to do, you'll see, I'm going to feed the rings through. So I found that this is what works best. I kind of added the pages as I went along. So feed the rings through the front and the back holes. And then I'm going to add my last page first. So I'm making sure that I've got it on right. And then this page I'm going to use as a guide, and I'm going to punch the next pages. And then I'll add those, and then I'll keep going until all of the pages are punched, just adding the pages as I go so that I don't get them out of order. It probably takes a little longer doing it this way, but it's organized. So there's my last page. I'll just feed that through. I'll close my rings, and your album is done. You've got a fun little summer memories album, strawberry themed summer memories album. So I'll just do a quick little flip through here so that you can see what it looks like. So here again, I didn't switch this out until before. On my original sample, it's the window sheet, and then the awning piece, and then the green piece. So here I'm opening up the little fold out bit. So there's lots of room for either journaling or photos, whatever you'd like. And here's the little tag. And then we've got some pockets for extra photos, or maybe tuck some ephemera in there. If you went to a movie and you have your movie ticket, you could tuck that in there. So many options. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you aren't yet a subscriber, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.